Okay, so Jen's come in to join me. She had to slide in very quickly there. So.
Hey, Edwin, how you going?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Actually, I know we're going on to real estate about now, but I just also wanted to mention about with the milks and the different like oat milk and rice milk. And there is a story I do know of a mum who didn't want to give her kid lactose milk and chose, I think it might have been rice milk, and in a bottle as a toddler, and this, and then the kid just sucks on the bottle. So, and then it ended up with the most terrible dental problems and had to have teeth removed, and it was very traumatic for everyone just because of the sugar that was just constantly on the teeth and through drinking it through a bottle. So heads up to anyone out there who's sort of chosen that sort of pathway for their child. It's really, you cannot leave it in a bottle and on constant contact with the teeth, even though they might have been baby teeth, but they had to be removed, and that was pretty awful.
Yeah, no, it wasn't nice. So yeah, I mean, that's just, I know we're going into real estate here, right? If you're talking about the amount of sugars in milk, rice milk is the biggest. It has the most sugar in it. So yeah, if you're going to choose a milk with a low carb, definitely don't pick the rice milk.
Yeah, so obviously a lot been happening on Twitter. There's a lot. We've been very busy. And
where do you want to get started?
There are a lot of people in the scene. But a little bit that's really sort of come out now is just recently is about these off the plan. As the title of our show today was off the plan, out of your mind.
Off the plan, off your head.
Off your head. And so what is it is, so an AFR report was talking about 1 in 10 off the plan apartment sales collapse. And just in a little pre-talk with Edwin, it might even be worse than this. So there's an article there, which Martin North of DFA he's actually been referred to a couple of times recently. Basically,
I was going to say, sorry, I'll say, because Jen's got glasses and she can't read. In Sydney's inner west and eastern suburbs alone, about 551 apartments failed to settle, and as did 457 in Melbourne's inner suburbs during the same period. Off the plan values have dropped between 10 and 15% in the past 12 months on average, higher than the previous year, digital finance analytics principal Martin North said. So Martin's obviously been looking at this for a long time as well.
As has Edwin. And I mean, I also was going to say, Edwin, like this was all talked about in the that sort of first dip after the peak in 2017, when it was all, during 2018, was it? That, they were talking about problems with off the plan. And also, so some of these deposits and everything were paid a couple of years back. Is that right?
Yeah, well, okay. A couple of things. The first one is I started talking about the issues that we were going to have with off the plan sales back in 14, because there was a lot of construction happening at that time, and soon after the Foreign Investment Review Board. Well, I think it was around 08, 09 that the Foreign Investment Review Board made it easier for overseas investors to own, albeit new property in Australia. Back when I started selling apartments to the local market back in early 2000 and just before the Olympics, we back then we could only sell a certain amount of apartments in an apartment block to foreign investors. And that was a low percentage there. And as I said, then the changes came about, 08, between 08 and 2010, and all that was watered down. And then all of a sudden, foreign investors could purchase entire buildings. You could sell the entire development block to foreign investors, and that's where we got this mass rise in construction with high-rise development and apartments, and that's when we started having issues. That's why I was writing those articles. The higher you build, the harder it's going to fall. It was only going to be a matter of time, and then you were building 60 levels, 40 levels, 50 levels, stuff that we weren't used to building before. Not only that, but we were also building them on water tables and all the issues with the basement parkings and so forth. And here we are. So that's the first thing. Yeah, exactly. And then we got Opal Tower and Mascot Tower and all the other towers that are about to. So then the second issue, the second thing that you raised there is in relation to, they're saying that 1 in 10 are failing to settle. I say it's a lot more than that. And the reason why I say it's a lot more than that is because there are a lot of apartment off the plan sales, a lot of property that has been sold off the plan, that there is a mutual rescission between the annulment of the annulment of the contract between the purchaser and the developer. And that could just simply mean that the developer keeps the 10% deposit or whatever deposit, and the purchaser walks away, because then the developer can resell it as a new apartment, as opposed to it becoming a secondary stock or an established dwelling, where then you can't sell it to overseas investors. So there are a number of reasons.
That's the
reasons. So that's where and those aren't recorded. Those settlements aren't recorded as much, and therefore I say it's more like 3 in 10, closer to between 3 in 10 to 5 in 10 that have failed to complete. And obviously, you don't want to let the public know that 50% of your tower or apartment tower fell over in the sales process, because then obviously the values go down, values get a hold of all this information, values drop down a lot faster than what they already are. So we would be seeing not only your 10-15% drops in prices or even 20%, but we'll be seeing 30-40% drops in prices if a lot of this information got out. That's your second issue. The third issue, as you mentioned, was in relation to the stamp duty. Now, Tarek and myself, we've been looking into this for close on to a year now, and we've been trying to get
avid commentator on Twitter, Tarek Brooker.
Yeah, avid commentator on Twitter, yeah, and he also does some reports with Martin as well. And his we've been doing a fair bit of research, and I got him onto this a while back. And that is, and I have mentioned it from time to time in Martin's podcast as well, and that is my discussions that I've had with property solicitors and barristers that specialize in property transactions. One of the things that the mainstream aren't following, and they should be following, and that is the stamp duty side of things. So with this failure, let's just look at the AFR numbers, 1 in 10, right? Mm-hmm. So if an apartment, let's work on averages. If an apartment, an off the plan purchase was, say, $700,000, then the deposit is $70,000, being 10%, or it could be, in many cases, could only be $35,000, right? But the stamp duty on that purchase is also around at about $35,000, and you have to pay the stamp duty on exchange of contracts on or within a 30-day period, a 3-month period. So when you've got this,
100% of the stamp duty is paid up front to the New South Wales government or your government.
That's correct. So you've got now what we've been trying to ask, what we're trying to look into, and say is how many of the stamp duties of failed transactions has the state government given back, or has been pressed to give back? Because I have spoken with solicitors that are chasing the stamp duty for the clients that have not finalised on the transactions, or the contracts have been annulled by, rescinded by one reason or another. They failed to complete. In other words, they didn't settle. So therefore, that stamp duty is duly payable back to the purchaser. And I know I've spoken to a number of people in the legal fraternity and in big marketing companies that have sold apartments, and I know that their legal eagles are chasing that stamp duty to obviously give back to their clients. Now, they may have lost the 5% deposit, they may have lost the 10% deposit, but that's something the government has to give back, and that's something that Tara and myself we've been investigating we're trying to get some numbers, trying to get a bit more info on it, so that he can do a story, which is, that's to me is more fascinating, more interesting than the 1 in 10 that I talk about.
The coppers, with all this, what is it, the snail train and the whatever, the light rail, various stadiums. I mean, they've just spent money, and are continuing to spend money. They're not going to get, and they've got all these other. Then they're forking out money for Opal Towers and paying people's secondary accommodation. It's just a nightmare. I was also going to ask you, Edwin. So, how long's this been going on? Like all the time, just under the radar kind of thing? Is it? Is this just been going on for a couple of years, 3 years plus now?
Well, people walking away from the project. Look, we started talking. I started talking about this around about 2017, when it started to really come to ground, and where people were just walking away, and when the economic landscape started to change, and things started. Now, also the other thing is that don't forget, before I think it was around 2017 or earlier, where we got the changes to the banking policies in the lending changes that the banks brought in for overseas investors. They stopped lending to overseas investors, so that a lot of people took a hit on that, and the transactions failed to proceed, and then obviously things were done to ease that pressure, to reignite the property machine once again, because don't forget, it's a big money spinner for the governments. The stamp duty is a huge money spinner. But
it's about the only revenue that, because they sold off everything. That's all they got left.
Yeah, and now they got this big hoorah now about the grants to first home buyers, encouraging another 10,000 people to go out and get the first property up to $700,000, albeit new property, and they're going to the government's going to lend them the 15%. I mean, this government's got no idea, because what they're basically doing is taking out a second mortgage. That's what it is. It's not a gift. So it's an actual mortgage it's a loan. It's a loan. Now my question is so once properties fall in value by 5%, which will be in the next in the next 3 months anyway. So what's going to happen then, when a lot of these properties are then going to be handed back, as we said, put back on the market, and they're going to be these people are going to be underwater? Is the government going to be a secured creditor or an unsecured creditor? Because at the end of the day, getting people with a 95% LVR into overly priced property anyway, where commissions on those properties are more than likely anywhere between 5 and 10% in themselves.
Now that's the stickers. So this is the marketing that happens, and in the especially I suppose in the apartment, these big apartment developments and that sort of thing. Maybe not so much, I suppose, in freestanding dwellings and the like. But huge money in those commissions.
Yeah, but let's not look too far with what happens what happened with the other grants that the government dished out in terms of the land, where developers that I know took land off market until these policies came into being, and then all of a sudden these grants came into place, and then they put them back on where you could have got blocks of land for $250,000, then they went off market, then they came back on a few weeks later at $275,000. How do you like them apples? It's all these things, all these whether people think it's free money, or loans that the government's putting out. let's just sit back and just watch it all unravel, because it's not really going to have a major impact as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I also know I did have a look at some of the T's and C's on that program. The first home loan deposit scheme. So basically, as a couple, you can earn up to $200,000 per annum as a couple, and they're really quite discriminatory. Like you can only be a de facto couple or a married couple. Like you can't be two friends to that, or a sibling or that sort of thing to qualify for this scheme. And also, so for New South Wales, it's city and regional centres. Your purchase has got to be under 700,000. Like, I mean, what's that get you?
Yeah, and west of us then.
And in Victoria, it's 600,000. And I mean, out, beyond, that Box Hill in New South Wales, that is like beyond Schofield, Vineyard, all that bit from Kellyville, whatever, towards out to the mountains towards Richmond. I mean, you've got 260 square metre blocks. And even as a house and land package, you're starting, at the moment, I don't know, way above 700. So as you're talking about the land, but then you've got to put the house on it and whatever. So I just think
it's farcical, because that's where you've got to go in order to get a house and land package happening, right? But yet a lot of these properties in Kellyville, North Kellyville, that got sold off the plan years ago and have been completed, and now people are now offloading properties after settling only a year ago, 18 months ago. Now they're trying to offload them, and that's going to be the epicenter of that area. Is where people paid 1.15 $1,150,000 for a house and land block on 450 square meters, or even 500 square meters, and now you can pick them up. You can pick them up for 960 to $1,050,000. So and it's only just starting. So why would you want to buy a $700,000 chicken coop in Schofield or beyond, just because the government's given you a loan of $105,000 to get in? That money isn't free. It's a loan.
It's real money. There's actually, just while I remember, so Joe Walker of the Jolly Swagman podcast did a whole series on the housing bubble. It was called Housing Bubble Week. And he did an episode with a guy called John Hempton, and they went out and he pretended, along with another gentleman, I can't remember his name, they were a gay couple, and they were out there in Kellyville, and they went and got a loan. Now, this in the heady days, way before the Banking Royal Commission, but people at the bank tellers and stuff were going, no, you've got to pull out, you've got to max out your credit card, you just got to get this deposit together. And it's sort of like saying, and sort of giving them information under the table about where to go to get more money, because the banks wouldn't give it to them. And that is all yet to come through the system. All those rotten loans that that are bad loans that are going to come through the system. But anyway, so if anyone wants to go and have a look at that, because that is what is also pushing. I sort of see it like someone's gut working. As it gets pushed through their gut, you've got all this stuff sitting back from 2017, bad, very loose lending, all that sort of stuff off the plans that are now being
and it's all it's already imploding in. I'm already seeing it happen around the Kellyvilles, the Kellyville Ridge, Glenwood, all these areas where people, they may have been bought in 2015, made a little bit of equity in there, and then they go out and get themselves a couple, not only one, but they go and get themselves a couple of fancy four-wheel drives, the Q7 Porsches, BMWs, four-wheel drives, and you see all these flash four-wheel drives in these driveways. They can't even park them in the bloody garages because the garages aren't big enough to cater for them anyway. But then again, I look back at 2000 and the early 2000s when the market imploded then, and back then it was stories of people in the Blacktown LGA that had bought bought property as well in the early subdivisions back there, and then then you had the latest Holdens or the latest Fords. The latest Commodore sitting in the front yards, and the latest Fords and Falcons, and you also had a bloody plasma TV in each room. And back then, plasma TVs were worth about 15,000.
Yeah, there's a lot of debt.
I can't forget that commercial. Remember that commercial? Or was it Con the veggie shop guy? Equity, mate, equity.
Equity. You just tweeted out, I think it was even like late this arvo, and it was, can I just ask you quickly about Hong Kong?
Yeah, go.
Because that's all kicking off. China, and China's sort of taking back Hong Kong in a rather sort of strong way. Now, I remember some properties going off at Epping, I don't know, 6 months back, and everyone was like, oh my God, it, went so much over the asking price with these auctions. I'm thinking that's Hong Kong. That's capital flight. That's flight of capital out of Hong Kong. And where are we at with this this magical boost that we might get from these fleeing Hong Kongers into the Sydney market?
That was before that was before the that was late last year, and it was Sporty that was putting up those tweets as he was going to auctions around in that Carlingford, Marsden, Epping regions there for some of his clients.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my aunt lives in Epping, and she was just amazed at this property across the road from her place, and it went for like $2 million, and it was, anyway. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
She should have walked over to the underbidder and sold her house to him or her. That would have done well, saved herself a lot of money as well in commissions. The thing is there are a number of things without getting political, right? I'm trying to not. I'm apolitical. Just don't,
Apolitical. Yeah.
Got to get over this shit. But look, there's a number of things that we have to battle with, contend with. First of all, anybody that's got any money left there in Hong Kong is not going to part. Is not going to part with their money. Or it's not going to part with their assets. Right, and I get direct messages from people in Hong Kong. I get direct messages from friends that have got friends in Hong Kong. I get I talk to a number of people that are actually living in Hong Kong, that have got family in Hong Kong, that have got interests in Hong Kong. Right, so this is my anecdotal evidence that I'm putting out here. So a lot of the people that they're not going to leave, because they don't want to part with the businesses, they don't want to part with the money, they don't want to part. And besides that, they're okay. They're in a property, and if they want to. Second point is, if they want to offload that now, they're going to lose. They're going to lose a huge amount of money in the sale, because they've already experienced a downturn. Who's literally wanting to buy anything in Hong Kong now? Or who's wanted to buy a business or a property in Hong Kong right now, right? So they're going to lose a lot of money in the sale if they're going to try and get that out. Third thing is the people that England are going to take on, and the people that people that Australia's proposed to take on. Most of them are people that have lost their jobs. Most of them are people that effectively they're going to be refugees. Right, so it's not people that have got wealth that want to leave Hong Kong. It's the majority of
financial
people.
Services.
Sorry.
So as I say, you know, all these people who work in financial services who are probably paid loads of money and that sort of thing, but Hong Kong is just sort of, you know, is not the place it used to be. And as you say, we've got these probably, you know, fairly highly qualified and experienced refugees.
Yeah. So, and yeah, you've got the retail sector, you've got the hospitality sector, no different to what we're going through here, right? So it's they're going to be the majority of people that are going to make up this. Now, today we got a warning from the Chinese embassy, a stern warning from Chinese embassy telling our government, keep your nose out of our affairs. So what's going to happen if we start meddling and start opening up our borders to these Hong Kongese? You know, look, let's face it. I mean, we're still exporting to China. Do we really want to seize everything that we're doing with China? Do we really want them to do we really want to have some sort of a trade embargo with China? Are we ready for it? We're not ready for it. So that's going to be the consequences. What's the retaliation going to be from China? Now, again, I say, without getting political, without getting into the political saying, into the oh yeah, but we got to do the right thing and all this and all that. But what about the Australian people, folks? What about the Australian people themselves, the ones that haven't got a job here, the people that started businesses 6 months ago, and now the business has gone down the gurgler because of COVID and because of everything else that we're going through, or bushfires. The one party's lost the business, the other party's lost their job. They've got 3-4 kids, and they don't have food to put on the table on a week-by-week basis. What about them? And we're going to stick our nose into somebody else's affairs. Honestly, for what? My question is, for what reason? So, based on my information,
not going to come and bail us out.
Sorry?
I guess they're sort of thinking that, you know, everyone in Hong Kong has loads of money and they will come over here and just sop up all the excess apartments and money. You know, they'll just come in and
they can think all they want. The people that have sucked, the people that bought in, and we got that little bit of a spike, they've already come. They've already left Hong Kong. They've already left. They've already migrated. They've already bought in Canada. They've already bought in America. They've already bought in Australia. They've already bought in New Zealand. They've already bought in England. They've already bought in Europe. They've already bought wherever they could. It's already happened. The majority of the people that are going to come in are people that are unemployed.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been rioting now in HongOng for what, 6 months plus, something like that. And the you know, we already saw all that money coming, as you say, 6 months ago at least. People up sticks. It's like, nah, this is all going to go pear-shaped. It's pretty much inevitable, I suppose, where it is now. It's really sad, obviously, but yeah, no. What is it? Knights riding in their armour to rescue the Australian property market. Look, I guess what are we at now? Oh, coming up to an hour. Is there anything you wanted to add in? I know you posted, there was a little thing on the mould in a rental. There's a couple.
Oh, yeah.
But just briefly, is that a video?
No, it was just a screenshot. Yeah, but Edwin brought up it was a video that someone had sent you with regard to some black mould at a property.
Yeah, it's something that's going to become more and more apparent now. This was in a townhouse where there's a roof leak with the adjoining townhouse, and there's obviously water had got into the cavity in between the two course, the brickwork there, because it's a full brick townhouse. So there's moisture in the cavity there, and now that moisture wants to get out. It's coming through, and with the cold weather, and we could say to the tenants, look, you got to ventilate, you got to stop using your dryer, you got to stop using your oven, you got to stop using your microwave, you got to stop using this. I mean, seriously, it's not about telling you got to ventilate, keep your doors open, keep your windows open. I mean, that's a property manager's solution to everything. with regards to bad ventilation. Bad ventilation comes back and sits squarely with the owner of the property, and they've got to fix these things. And strata complexes, high rise, whatever. It's not about opening windows. It is about you do get ventilate and everything. That's for your own health, for your own thing. But you can't expect people to leave the bloody windows, doors, and everything open whilst they go to work or whilst they leave the home. And with the rise of crime that we're gonna get because of all these people losing their jobs and incomes and these lockdowns, you really want to leave things open whilst you leave your home, and then they're telling people not to put the clothes dryer on, not to put their oven on or the air conditioning on. Well, how else are they going to get things done? Should I
say, maybe I'll just move on. I'll go and find a cheaper thing. I mean, there's so much, so much stock. Prices are coming down. Geez, I mean, why would you hang around and live in mould? I mean, you just up sticks. That's the point. That's one of the small benefits of being of a tenant is that you can just up sticks and move.
Yeah, but unfortunately, unfortunately, the moves can be expensive, and a lot of tenants can't afford to move because it can be expensive, and it's really the shenanigans that the real estate industry has been playing and has been lording over the tenants for decades. And this is something that I've been very vocal about for decades myself, and that is the unfair treatment of a lot of tenants and the squalor that a lot of tenants have been left to live in, because unfortunately a lot of tenants don't understand the regulations. But hopefully more and more education and fair trading will do a lot more in order to get the message across. But let's not forget that in late March, the new tenancy regulations have come through. That sits squarely now on the property managers and on the landlords to start fixing these crappy tenancies and start putting some money in. They've got away with it for over a decade in not maintaining the properties, but now the chickens have come home to roost. So now things have got to get done, because otherwise they're not going to be deemed to be fit and proper for a tenancy, and they'll be taken off the of the tenancy register, and hopefully they'll be blackballed, and agents are should start getting fined for not maintaining these properties, because it's a health hazard. There are trip hazards, there are health hazards. People living with asbestos that's breaking apart, lead paint, galvanized pipes, overexposed electrical circuits, or so much that could go wrong in a rental property, and property managers and owners got away with it. Sorry,
and when I followed up that tweet, I mentioned that there was 2 different black molds that are commonly found in properties. But the interesting thing is, I mean, if you get a lung infection, you get this process called aspergillosis or mycotoxosis, which is basically the mold producing a toxin that your body then absorbs, and it starts affecting your nerves, starts affecting your heart, your brain, all sorts of things. Really not very nice at all. But I was thinking, if you have a property that you've reported, I've got a black mold issue, it's got a leak, maybe there's a leak in the roof, or maybe it's a pipe or something like that, and you're inhaling a lot of that spore, gets into your lungs, your lungs are then your immune system is fighting against that effectively. Is there any legal recourse that the landlord has to be worried about? Like, could I turn around as a tenant and go, well, I told you about this, and now I've got COVID-19 because my immune system has been depressed from living in your rot box? Could I actually take any steps against the landlord for that?
Yes, you can, and that's what the new legislation and the regulations that are coming in March are assisting tenants to do that, and that's something that tenants have got to document everything. You've got to document everything, document it all. And look, you'd find that there's a lot of this stuff that goes on. But you know what? It's not fancy enough for the mainstream media to report on this. It doesn't bring the big bucks for government for the mainstream media to report on the real issues of this ad hoc granny flats and ad hoc dual occupancies that people have been living in for decades. I mean, the case in hand where a couple of years ago in Doonside, where a 5-year-old child got burnt alive in a property that, and I'm very, very, very aware of the circumstances behind and around that property, where effectively the landlord didn't want to spend money fixing the smoke alarms or putting in good smoke alarms and detectors and so forth, and although property managers from one agency would hound the landlord to get things fixed, they refused, and thank God that agency then said, look, we're not managing your property anymore because this is a health risk, it's a health hazard, and then another brand name agency in the Blacktown LGA picked it up, and guess what? The same problems persisted, and then nothing got done, and a 5-year-old child got burned alive. Now we don't know the full onset of that, but what I do know is that that there was a lot of shenanigans and files were being burnt and things were being asked, and because so this is the thing. But now, you know what? Again, the chickens have come home to roost. This is it now. This is do or die now for a lot of landlords and property management teams that haven't been doing the right thing. And I hope that this gets out. As a matter of fact, guys, here's a breaking story for you. A couple of colleagues and myself, we're gonna release an app in a week or so, and it's an app, and it's in the basic stages at the moment, and that's basically for tenants to give a score. The app's called Rentable Score. It's to give a score on the property that you are currently leasing. So we're going to get some background information on a lot of properties. It's got a nifty little functions there where you can upload photos and tell us what's going on, and we're going to score it. And eventually you'll be able to email the property manager, send them a rentable score, and eventually we'll publish that score, make it live, so that when tenants go and search see a property on the net, they may like it, and then they can go to the to our app and see what type of score the previous tenant has left that property. How's that for
like a restaurant? Like if you're going to choose a restaurant or whatever it is, and you want to say, get a ranking before you commit, because it's a big commitment.
So that's a pretty powerful database too. That's going to have a lot of information that you can utilize that information to really see what's going on in rental markets in certain areas. That's an amazing database to be able to access.
Sounds really interesting. So that'll be really good to explore. And in a couple of weeks?
Well, next week. Next week. I don't know much about apps and all this technology. So look, the guys tell me, they talk about ISOs and SDOs and this and that. Like, it's like Lee talking about C45, green, red, and all this 787s and all these things that we've been eating and doing all sorts of things to our guts. It's all that, in one ear and out the other. But I just hope that it's very basic. It's going to be very basic because we want to see what the uptake is. It's really to empower the tenants to have a voice. That was my main thing. That was my main thing with the guys. I said, look, if you want to do this, I wanted to empower the tenant to have a greater voice in voicing their concerns, voicing the fact that how they've been mistreated, for decades. Look, we've all been tenants. We've all owned property. We've all been tenants. We owe some rent vest, some have sold, waiting for the downturn. But we've all come across tenants, and we may have had all sorts of good experiences, but unfortunately, the majority of experiences are dreadful experiences because of the lack of interest in this area of tenancies and rentals, because it's shiny.
The lack of regulation. I mean, if you look at Europe, anywhere in Europe, I mean, where tenants have rights. In this country, we just have zero rights. It's there is nothing. They are, you know, tenants are just this bottom rung that nobody wants to deal with. And Edwin, I know that you've always advocated for many years when it's not been very, you know, sexy and whatever. But so this sounds like just a really useful tool for a third of the population. I think it was in Martin's data the other day. You've got a third who own their properties outright, and then you've got a third who are mortgage holders and a third who are tenants. So I mean, it's a big chunk of the population, and I think ScoMo should like think about that sometimes. It's not just his little what is it, Scott Cam and all that sort of construction stuff. Anyway, he's got a bee in his bonnet about that. I think he should just go and just don the fluoro vest and get some boots on and get out there, Scott. I just, you know, that's obviously the call.
He doesn't want to grab a hose, but you can grab a shovel.
Anyway,
let's maybe we could talk about a bit more when we do release it. I said it's just going to it's basic. It's going to see how we go and what the uptake is before we go any further with it. But it's one of these projects that they had the idea. I said, okay, I'll contribute, and it's something that as long as it empowers the tenants to have a greater voice. So let's see how we go.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there, and I might just take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll announce the winner of our coffee cup competition.
That's right. Be back.
Okay, back in 1 second. Okay, in episode 2, we talked about giving away one of Genevieve's Debt Is Not Wealth Peter Leeds cups. So the time has come to draw the winner. We've accumulated all the people that have said they wanted to be in the coffee cup competition, and we fit them all inside the coffee cup.
There you go.
Excuse me. Okay, so here is the winner. You want to read it out?
Yes, it's Joseph Kendall.
So, Joseph Kendall, we will get in contact with you and let you know how to get hold of us so we can send you your mug.
We've got another one to go at some point. Yeah. So please do make a comment. Love to hear your feedback. And thank you so much, Edwin, for your time. I hope we sort of really...
Thank you, guys.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. And hopefully everyone enjoyed the conversation, and we will hope to see you all next time. Thank you very much. Bye.
See you later.